600,000 people, and there's a vaccine for it that stops people from dying, but people don't want to take it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
The push behind it gives me a bad feeling. It's sort of like when a salesperson is pushing you into something, even though it looks great or it's probably a good idea, I just got a bad feeling about it. I'll get the vaccine if I feel like, yeah, this is this thing to do.
You're not going to get the vaccine. I can tell right now you're not going to get the vaccine. What's up?
Hi, Paul.
Today, we're going to do a very focused and specific podcast for you. That's going to be about one of probably the biggest, most important topic we've got going on right now in the country and around the world, and that's COVID-19 and how people are dealing with it, and the vaccine, more specifically, COVID-19 vaccine. So we're not going to waste any time just catching up, because we just want to get into this one. So Brandon, what kind of set this off was obviously, COVID numbers are kind of increasing. And Brandon wrote, was it on Facebook or Instagram? I can't remember. Okay.
Facebook, yeah.
Facebook wrote something, kind of put his thoughts together and wrote them, put them on Facebook. And I read them, and it's one of those moments where I realized that while we have a lot in common, we also have a lot that's not in common, which is kind of what makes these conversations, I think, at least for me, pretty interesting. So Brandon's gonna read his what he wrote, and then we're gonna just talk about it. So Brandon, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, so a little background. I have a friend who's a very strong advocate of the vaccine. He's been texting me, asking me if I've gotten the vaccine. He's been offering to take me to the clinic. He's been offering to answer any questions I might have, sending me stories of people who've gotten sick because they haven't gotten the vaccine. He's taken a strong interest in me getting it. I haven't gotten the vaccine. But his latest text prompted me to finally just lay it out there on Facebook. And I said, you know what, this is kind of an underground conversation people are having. Like, it's sort of like, who did you vote for? And it's like, that's kind of private, So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to lay it out there because I have just some honest concerns. I'm not sure what to do. And I hear both sides. So I'm just going to lay it out there. And I did. Paul read it and said, we need to talk about this. This is what I wrote. I said, okay, straight talk. What's the bottom line with the vaccine? I haven't gotten it and have a friend urging me to do so. So here's the situation the best I can tell. And then I'd love to know your input on it. Discuss, not argue. My perspective is as follows. The vaccine is largely effective, though I understand it's less so with recent COVID strains. And again, this is dated July 22nd, so a lot happens in 2 weeks. There are occasional side effects to the vaccine, some severe and perhaps some unknown due to its experimental nature and no long-term studies. That said, if I was at risk for a severe reaction to COVID, I would get the vaccine. I would probably get the vaccine is what I wrote. The risks from it are less than the risks from the virus. But I'm not at risk. And since, to my understanding, people who don't show symptoms aren't usually capable of passing on COVID, I have less concerns about accidentally infecting someone who would be at risk. And again, I'm not stating these as a clinician, I'm stating these as just how I see it. So I know I'm wrong on some of this, or at least I could be proven more accurate. I could be shown, more accuracy, and I say that later. I go on to say, new strains are making the news today, but while cases do rise, statistics I've seen show deaths are not. So I'm aware, but I'm not yet alarmed by these new cases. And then I give a little side here, and maybe this is not necessary, but it's something I thought I'd mention. The aggressive vaccine marketing and arm twisting are extremely off-putting. And in my heart, they place a dark cloud of suspicion over this whole movement to vaccinate, because it seems based in desperation, fear, and not genuine concern, love. Humans have an instinct to sense fear and be wary of anything based on it. When a salesperson is forceful, his or her product could be the greatest thing ever, but we'll still shy away. We don't even have to know why, we just will. In the case of the vaccine push, I do have an idea why. I worry that the fear behind it may lead to a hasty, untested, unsafe product. I worry about the societal ramifications of harmful policy. And by that, I meant policy that encourages or even forces people to get the vaccine. That said, I don't want to not get the vaccine just because the marketing and politics is bad. We're in radical times, and desperate marketing and overreaching policy are actually in line with how society is now, as I see it. So it's not necessarily a sign the vaccine is a bad idea. And on the flip side, there's a ton of unreasonable fear toward the vaccine, which one needs to also separate from the facts in their warnings. So setting aside the quote unquote fear factor, I'm still left with the situation as I see it above, motivating me to hold off on the vaccine for now. That's the bottom line as I honestly see it. I'm open to change. And perhaps the bottom line to me about the situation is this, that over the past 18 months, it seems cases and deaths of COVID have been uncorrelated with mask policy, lockdowns, and now with vaccines. In other words, the virus is spreading as it will, irrespective of what we humans have been doing externally to try and control it. If so, I try to be careful with my language. If so, it really knocks the whole vaccine debate down a couple of notches on its pedestal of importance. And then I asked, how do you see the situation? And I left it at that. And a bunch of people chimed in and on both sides. So.
Okay, I'd like to, before I get to kind of my thoughts, I'd like to ask a few questions about what you just read, all right?
Okay.
First question is, what side effects are you hearing about that are caused by the vaccine? Any version of, and when I say vaccine, I mean every version, the Johnson & Johnson, the Pfizer, the AstraZeneca, and I feel like I'm missing one, but either way, all of the vaccines lumped into one, that's what I'm referring to. So what side effects have you heard of?
Feeling like garbage, really, just getting really sick. I've read about them on Twitter, personal testimonies. So I don't know if they're even true. I know that I've read several of them and I'm guessing they're true. I think I saw a PSA about the vaccine where it acknowledged that there are some side effects, or there can be some side effects. And so the ones I've read, I've taken to be true, and some have been serious, like people feeling worse than they did when they either got COVID or had the flu in their past or whatever. And so I'm worried. I don't want to feel like garbage. So
okay.
there's that. I don't know if any of it's permanent or not, or at least long lasting.
So I'll say, so I have gotten the vaccine. I don't want to have people have to assume that I have, but I've got the 2 shots of Pfizer. I personally didn't feel any sort of, other than, some kind of soreness in my arm. That's all I felt. But yeah, it's pretty common for people to feel worn down or even have flu-like symptoms. I shouldn't even say that to mix it, but it's just basically the body's response to a foreign subject or foreign what am I trying to say? Something foreign being put in the body. It's just an immune response. But it's, so when you said side effects, I thought you meant like maybe some long-term thing. There's a chance you might feel bad for a couple of days, but I
think that's the extent of it. I have heard of, now that I think about it, people developing, well, there was the enlarged heart, wasn't there? There was the blood pressure issue.
There's basically been like anything, when you give something to hundreds of millions of people, there will be instances of just freak reactions or things, but they're so minute that it's the same equivalent of, getting on a plane and, and just, it's like, it's going to happen when you have that many people, but it's not something that's normal or expected. And I think when you just compare it to the types of long-term damage that you could get, like your lungs could get, or, from COVID, like there aren't really any side effects other than the initial maybe onset of being tired or, having some flu-like symptoms, which can be bad, but it's a couple days and, so that's it. So Yeah, so I think that's so. The next thing that you said I wanted to, you mentioned that if you don't have symptoms, you can't pass it on, but that's inaccurate. If you don't have symptoms, you can still pass it on. It doesn't matter one way or the other, whether you're showing symptoms or not. You can still pass it on. So that's something that I'm pretty confident that the science has borne out. The you mentioned also too the rises in the infections aren't correlating with death. Well, the reason that's happening is that people who have had the vaccine are still getting COVID, because the vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting COVID necessarily. I mean, it lowers your chances, but what it does is it prevents you from dying from COVID. It prevents the symptoms from being bad. So while there is when there's an uptick, there's not the correlation isn't with the total number of people infected. The correlation is with unvaccinated people who are getting infected. Because at this point, 99.999% of people who are dying are unvaccinated. Like vaccinated people just aren't dying from COVID. Unless there's some, I mean, like I said, it's 99% of people aren't dying. So that in itself makes me feel like I made the right decision in getting vaccinated, because while I may get sick, I'm not going to die from it. And then, so you mentioned, and this is something I guess I just want you to elaborate on. You mentioned suspicions of the motivations behind the government's push, like the marketing push. So what do you think the nefarious motive could be?
I don't think it's evil. I don't think it's malicious. I know there's a lot of that being spread, a lot of paranoia around that. I just think the push behind it gives me a bad feeling. It's sort of like when a salesperson is pushing you into something, even though it looks great or it's probably a good idea, I just got a bad feeling about it. And that's honestly one of the largest factors. It's just, I don't have a good feeling about it. It doesn't feel right. Or it doesn't feel safe or whatever. And I'll get over that if the numbers are clear. I'll get over that bad feeling.
I mean, the numbers at this point, if it's numbers, or because one of the big things is like that a lot of hangups people have is with big pharma, right? Because we see on one side, big pharma, is mostly to blame for the opioid crisis, right? Big pharma is to blame for super high, medications that that are overly inflated. Now, I do understand that research and development cost a lot of money, so pharmacy is not a charity thing. But anyway, I understand the issues with big pharma. But I think so it's like, how can we trust big pharma to do the right thing? Well, I think we don't need to trust big pharma. We need to trust the results. And the results of what we see is that 99.9% of people who have the vaccine aren't dying. Like, there's just not. So when we see a number on the TV that says, 1,000 people died or 10,000 people died or whatever, 500 people died, that's all people who chose not to get vaccinated.
Okay.
Yeah. But one more time, I just want the suspicions you have. So I get that it makes you feel like kind of like when they're pushing, it makes you feel kind of, just off-putting. But I want to get down to, okay, so let's say somebody's trying to sell me a car and they're really pushing it. I think, well, this car might be a lemon. It might be a piece of shit. It might not run. This guy's trying to offload something. So I can specifically point to the downside of the downside to me if I buy this car that this guy's pushing on me. What is the downside to you of this? What do you think the downside is from taking the vaccine? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the it's the potential health risks that could happen to me. That really is what it is. It's the potential health risks.
So at this point, the health risks, though, are all basically unknown. That maybe 2 years from now, we could find out that there's some downside to the vaccine that we just didn't know about. Because right now, there's been no evidence of any real quantifiable health risks. as compared to the you
I
have
guess
a
I don't
rate.
know if that's true. I guess I don't know if that's true because um they took the one off the market or they put a warning on it or something. And then there were like I forgot the name of that condition that it was. There was that condition that it was having on kids.
There was there at one point, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Johnson and Johnson, but a condition called myocarditis that affected 12 cases. There were 12 cases per 1 million people. So take that for what it's worth, 12 per 1 million. And that didn't result in death. So
I know I know the odds of it being bad for me, like bad. I don't mean just annoying, but like bad are really, really, really low. But I also know the risks of COVID being bad for me are really, really, really low. So that's why it's not a slam dunk. You know, this isn't polio or, you know, Ebola. This is, for most people, a flu. And I know people hate it when that it gets equated to the flu. They think that's denialism or whatever. But really, most people don't, and especially 40 and healthy, they don't have a problem with this. So I'm reading that, and again, I don't know for sure, but I've read that if you get it, your immunity to it is stronger than if you would have gotten the vaccine. But again, I don't know these things.
not, I mean, it fades faster. It's not, that's not accurate.
I guess what it comes down to is the risks of getting it versus the risks of getting COVID. And probably even more important than that is the risks of me passing it on. And that's probably the key. Like if I have a strong chance or even a small chance of passing it on to grandma, then I'll probably go to the clinic and get the vaccine. But I've read that it's
honestly,
not.
this feels like we're in 2020. I cannot believe we're in 2021 and we're having these same conversations. It boggles my mind that we were on lockdown for a month at a time. And just for the record, the numbers the numbers for like COVID, they went down last year, right? Well, okay, they peaked in the winter, I believe, and then they started going down.
Yeah.
Right. Now, you mentioned that you weren't sure if mask had anything to do with it. Well, let me ask, what do you think caused the numbers to go down? Like they went, okay, when we first masked up in March, the numbers dipped. And then they went back up when kind of fall and winter came along. And then they dipped again. And now at the end of August, they're rising again. Because some would say that, well, it's the season, you know, it's because we're outdoors more and whatever. But I think every bit of evidence you look at shows that when masks were used, it limited the spread. And when masks became less used, the spread increased. Like now we're not using masks. I mean, and people who are vaccinated, like me, are spreading it too because we're just out in the world. And it's still summertime, but numbers are still ticking up, you know? So I think if you look at it, just like masks obviously played a part in lowering the spread. There's no evidence to counter that. I mean, places that didn't have masks were more likely to spread it. But anyway, okay. So
I don't know if I accept that.
What's that?
I don't accept that.
Okay, well, accepting it versus like, okay, there's a version of believing something, and then there's the reality of something. And you cannot find anything. This is something I will challenge on. You find one bit of evidence that shows that masks did nothing, or did not have a not even nothing, but that they did not have an immense, an enormous lowering of the of contagiousness of the disease. That's what I would love for you to find any sort of evidence other than just the belief.
I think it's ample.
What's that?
I think it's ample, Paul.
Well, and that's where I would like you to show me some sort of study that's been done that shows masks don't work, and we can, that is
Sure,
something we'll follow up on.
sure. Depends on
Okay.
the kind of mask, I think.
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, it's kind of like going to a hospital and saying, hey, hey, Mr. Brain Surgeon, why are you doing this surgery, or heart surgeon, or whatever kind of surgeon? Just take the mask off and let's just roll with it. You got a pretty face. Let's just roll with it. There's no chance of you contaminating your patient with, it's because the mask doesn't really do anything. So,
Well, she's not using the kind of masks I don't think that we were all out there using.
well, so much of this is just, it's just that when you talk, you emit, water droplets or spit droplets or saliva. That's when we were saliva. And it kind of makes sense that if you do this and the saliva doesn't get out, then it's going to limit the spread if the spread is through saliva, right? It's kind of not to just say it's a common sense thing, because some things are counterintuitive, but I think that this is going to stop the spread of saliva more than this. Like, hachoo, hachoo. It's just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll put it, I think you're wrong, but I'm open to any sort of analysis that shows that I'm wrong.
Well,
I'll accept it.
The CDC guy or the White House advisor guy from Minnesota, is it Osterholm?
Mm-hmm.
He's from Minnesota. He's on CNN.
I've seen him all over. Yeah.
He said the cloth masks, the ones we use, they're not effective.
When did he say this?
He just said this.
When, like recently?
Like a week ago, in the last week.
Okay.
You need like the N95s, he said, but that's just not what people are wearing. So if you say Gator, like I was just a Gator, or the normal ones you get at the clinic, the little ones that spread open,
ones. Yeah,
they're just, I guess there's no. And
so now let me stop real quick, because there is a difference between whether.
But masks is a different conversation than vaccine.
Okay, yes, but one thing about it, and then we can move on. And I do, if there's evidence, but I think there's a difference in whether they're effective in from blocking you from breathing in, and getting COVID versus you giving COVID. So the mask, I was always told that the mask, they stop you from spreading it, but they don't stop you from getting it. So what the guy from Minnesota said could have been referring to you getting it, because that was always kind of the idea, is that you're wearing the mask to protect the other people. But mask aside, this is a vaccine-centric conversation. So anything else that you're kind of wanting to say about, your hesitancy, I guess?
I think it really comes down again to that point of, does the vaccine decrease my chance of giving it to grandma, and how much? And she's vaccinated. So what does that do to protect her if I do give it to her? That's really what it comes down to. I've got one grandparent left, and that's sort of like the instance I always put in my mind, like, the oldest relative, the one member left in that generation. She's kind of like the case study I always think about. And, to protect her is really, I think, the most important thing here.
It doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like it. Because if it was, you would have, that the chances of you infecting her are more, I shouldn't say but every bit of evidence says the chances of you infecting her with COVID right now, even though she's been vaccinated, is higher if you don't have the vaccine. And that there's not really, for you, there's probably not a risk either way. There's definitely not a risk when you get the vaccine, because 99% of the people dying don't have the vaccine. But there is a risk of you, I don't know. If grandma is that important, then why, like my mom lives in the house, in my guest house. She's 80 years old. I got her a vaccine the first week she could. And I got my vaccine the first weekend I could, because I knew that, even if she's vaccinated up, that me, I just wanted to lower the odds as much as possible. And I
Right.
wanted to never. And so
Right.
my take on stuff like,
If I lived with my grandma, I get the vaccine too.
well, then what's the difference? Like if it makes sense to do it in that scenario, why not do it in the other? Because maybe you come in contact with other people and elderly people, and who knows who might transmit it to whoever. Like, I know grandma is important, but what about the dude down the street? And okay, this is where I kind of have this philosophy, and I don't always put it into practice because I'm, but it's kind of the thing I try to live by, is that things that I don't like in life, I want to experience for the least amount of time. Right? I don't want to have a situation and then just stay in it. Right? So my thing was, we're in this pandemic, and I want to get out of this thing as fast as possible. So I never have to talk about it again, never have to think about it again, never have to wonder or whatever. I don't have to think about a mask. I don't have to think about talking to mom, on top, whatever. So my whole philosophy was that once enough data came back to show that there were no real ill effects from the vaccine, I think, I'm going to take this thing, and I'm gonna get my mom vaccinated, and I'm gonna hope everybody else does it. And you know what? We don't have to talk about in 2022 is the fucking is COVID-19, that we can just move on, because I'm tired of it. Everybody's tired of it, but somehow we're in a state where I think so many people spend so much time putting themselves at the center of every goddamn issue that we can't just think about the whole and move forward. Like, there's always there's always a way to advance things. And there's always somebody holding the ropes of this thing and slowing it down so that it doesn't just take us the right amount. It doesn't take us an efficient amount of time to get through things. Every topic in this country, and probably just human history, it's just the way we have it. We have people on both sides pulling back and forth, and eventually we get forward, but there's always pull back and forth, right? And a lot of times those issues I get both sides of it. I understand why there's the push and pull, or the tug from both sides, because it's a complicated issue. But what I don't get is when the issue is just so crystal clear from all the evidence that we have, that we could just all kind of say, hey, these guys are experts, and they're not always right, but they're more right than we are, right? And as more information comes in, these smart people will analyze it and spit out the information. Like, nobody's bitching and complaining about the polio vaccine. You know why? Because we just get it. I bet you go back to the 1950s when you see, people walking in, the leg braces, and the vaccine comes out. Like, I bet they jumped at the chance. I don't know. I just don't understand why we're dragging our feet, because what's going to happen is the longer this thing is out there, the more variants we're going to have. And eventually there's going to be a variant that jumps over the fence, and we're going to have to start this shit all over again. And we're going to be talking about this in 2022, 2023, 2024, and it's never going to stop. I'm ready to move on. And I do think there's such a me, what am I? What about me? What about me? When it's like we're getting drafted to go to Vietnam. Like, no, this isn't Vietnam. This is a shot, a little soreness, maybe a little bit of side effects from or feeling bad, and then you're good. Then you don't have to think about it anymore. I'm just tired of thinking about it. But you know what? All these unvaccinated people, you included, are just spreading this shit at full strength, or more capable of spreading at full strength. And we're going to be going into the winter talking about this shit again. And I'm just so fucking over it, because there's a solution.
I don't think that is a solution. That's the thing. I think part of this, the reason why I think some of your anger is a little misguided is because, like in Israel, that has like, I think 90+ % vaccinated, and cases there are going through the roof. I don't think this vaccine,
How about deaths? Are deaths going through the roof?
If people are vaccinated, I'm not a risk to them then.
No, I mean, when you say in Israel that deaths or cases are going through the roof.
I don't know what the death rate is, but you're talking about spreading it. The vaccine doesn't seem to stop it, Paul.
Well, what it does, it limits your symptoms. It limits how long you are sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a coincidence that once people start getting vaccinated, numbers started dropping, right? In the spring, people started getting vaccinated because that's the same point when, we started letting go of the mask and numbers started going down because even if you're vaccinated, you get it, you don't have it for as long. Your symptoms aren't as bad. You're not going to the hospital. You're just kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if the vaccine.
I'll put it this way. When you have two options, being vaccinated versus not being vaccinated, one of them is a whole lot better, is giving us a lot better chance of getting past this than the other. Unvaccinated, we never get out of this. We never get herd immunity. We never get out. But the more people who are vaccinated, the more chance we have of getting out. It's one or the other. Either we do or we don't. Right now I shouldn't say it's either or. Right now we're in the middle, and we're not going to get herd immunity at this rate. So we're going to fall right back in, especially when winter comes along and nobody's going to want to mask up, and we're going to be right back at this in next July, next August, whatever this month is. Yeah, because we're going to be right back.
I'm guessing it would have been the case whether everyone was vaccinated or not, that we would have been right back, because it doesn't seem to be slowing the spread much, but I could be wrong on that. It doesn't seem to be slowing the spread in other countries. I don't know. I think COVID is something we're going to have to live with ongoing indefinitely, regardless of vaccination status. People aren't going to lock down again, I don't think.
There was a time when anti-vax people were all extreme people on the left, super, super liberal. I don't want anything like that in my body or my children's body. A lot of people equate it with autism, which there's no data correlating vaccines with autism, and every 4 or 5 years there's some measles outbreak at Disneyland, and there's a news story, and it go through the cycle, and then we forget about it. And then another 4 or 5 years, another measles outbreak or this outbreak. And it's like, okay, this is a thing that the extreme left has been behind. And I do find it almost whatever. The only reason people on the right aren't doing this is because of Trump. That's the only reason, because he put so much hesitancy behind COVID, behind everything. And now science has become a liberal thing. It's become a thing of the left. And if Trump in the beginning would have said, hey, everybody, let's wear masks, then all his followers would have worn masks. And if he would have come out and said, hey, everybody get a vaccine, everybody would have got a vaccine. This is completely the new conspiracy theory, distrust, misinformation stage or age of the Republican Party. That's all it is. We're talking about a disease that's killed over 600,000 people, 600 million people. Wait, 600,000. My bad. Big difference. 600,000 people, and there's a vaccine for it that stops people from dying, but people don't want to take it. I don't get it.
I see where you're coming from.
I don't get it. If you said, because COVID is so much worse in every way. Like if you get COVID, your lungs may be scarred for the rest of your life. You may not ever breathe right again. You get the vaccine, you get an ouchie, and then you move the fuck on, right? And then you just kind of don't have to worry about dying. Like you talk confidently that a 40-year-old man isn't going to die, but 40-year-old people die all the time from COVID. It's not likely. But it's more likely that you'll die than if you had the vaccine. And don't you just kind of want to not just move on, just not think or talk about it? Don't you want to not write long posts about it again? Don't you just want to kind of say, hey, I went with I went with the evidence, and shit, if I turn into a zombie in 3 years hey, I chose wrong, right? Then I chose wrong. But we've been making vaccines, for 60, 70 years. And, it's not like I mean, there's some new technology in how they've done some of the vaccines, but it's not this experimental thing that, oh my God, we may turn into, a zombie or a invalid, or you may whatever. It's just, there's no chip in it. There's no, I mean, it's just, and here's the thing, I've been wanting to have this conversation because after this, like, I'm just not talking about it anymore. I'm done with it. I'm moving on. And I'm moving on. And now if something happens where we have to get back into it, and probably is, we're going to mask up. And, I told myself I wasn't putting on a mask, but hey, you know what? Whatever. If I have to mask up, I'll mask up. But unless there's some revolutionary new bit of evidence, this is the last I plan on talking about this shit, because I'm done with it. I'm done talking about it. I saw a quote once, and this might sound insulting, which it probably is, but I'm going to say it. Small minds ponder small things, right? And I think that this is something that, like, every bit of evidence is pointing in this. Every bit of evidence is telling us what to do. And to go round and round about it is giving ourselves way too much, like, it's thinking way too much. I mean, unless we're doctors or got a PhD or we're experts in some way, for us to go round and round about this thing, I don't know, like, it's kind of like we don't know anything anyway. So to not trust the experts and think we can work this out in our own heads almost feels like arrogant. But that's just me. The guy drinking a ultra watermelon Monster energy drink. So anyway, I think that's what I got.
I get it. I hope you don't put too much blame on non-vaccinated people for
100% of the blame. 100%, all of it.
Let me finish my sentence.
Yes.
For far-reaching policy. It's not the unvaccinated people that make the governor shut things down. It's not the unvaccinated people that require whatever vaccine passports or something like that, or require kids to wear masks in school. These are the actions of policymakers that are themselves unscientific and heavy-handed, because they feel like they have to do something even if it doesn't help.
Well, but the thing is that the people trying to do this stuff, they listen to the experts, right? The experts are telling us this is what we need to do because they're experts.
Nah, the kids wearing masks in schools, or it's theater. People know this. People know this.
No, there's
a different issue than the vaccine, but I just hope you don't blame unvaccinated people for that, because that's separate.
No, here's the truth about it all is that experts have told us, I won't say in the very beginning, but pretty soon into the pandemic in 2020, there was very strong evidence that masks limited the spread of the disease. But us being Americans and thinking we know better than experts because we have Google, we just, and we don't like inconvenience, like we don't like inconvenience because that's, that influence, that limits our enjoyment. Inconvenience limits our enjoyment. So, mask mandates were inconvenient to people. People didn't want to do it because they didn't want to wear masks. And kids wearing masks in school, they didn't, basically what I'm trying to get at. So we made these kind of took these half-ass measures because people wouldn't go full measure. And also too, we live in a country where money matters. And so you have restaurant mandates where you can wear your mask in and then you sit down and you take it off, which is kind of stupid when you think about it. You put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. It's less effective. It's still more effective than not, but it's a half measure or half, whatever. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Same thing with kids in schools. Keeping kids in school with masks on all the time is probably impossible. And now kids aren't as likely to get sick, but they can still get it, pass it on to mom, to grandma, to whoever. So we did this half measure where we had kids probably wear the mask a little bit and then not, and then a little bit and then not, because that's the best we could do. But it's not saying that it wouldn't work. It's not better. It's just saying that we're not up to the challenge of doing it. That's how I see some of these mask rules or whatever. It's just the government, like you said, you feel distrustful when the government tells you what to do. Even if it's just, do you feel distrustful when they say put on your seatbelt? Do you feel when they say, hey,
I want to handle this like the seatbelt law. I don't wear the seatbelt because the government tells me to. I think the seatbelt law is wrong, but I'm not going to not wear it to rebel. Right? I don't want to give the cops another reason to pull people over, Paul. I don't think you do either. So I don't like the seatbelt law. I don't like that they have the right to take money from me because I don't put a piece of fabric across my chest. And I don't think you disagree. But
no,
I'm not gonna.
I think that
I'm not gonna rebel.
Well, because here's the deal about a seatbelt law. You know who it applies to? It applies to adults and to children. And if you want to be an adult who just gets ejected out of your car and you die, well, it's going to suck for everybody around you, like your family, your friends, the people who hit you, or the whatever, or insurance rates will whatever. It sucks because more people will die if we don't have seatbelt laws, and it sucks for adults, but it also sucks more. Wait. So if let's say we all just stop wearing seatbelts, more people die, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so I think for me, it's more of a, hey, parents, you can be a rebel and die, but let's buckle your kids up. How about we do that? Let's get a child safety seat that we put in the back seat and that faces backwards, because that's the safest way for your child. So for me, I think people have this obsession with like the freedom to do what they want to do, and I don't want to wear a seatbelt. It's like, get over yourself, man. Just put on it, not you because you but just get over yourself. Just get over yourself, man. We live in a society where as a whole, there's some,
I'm with you. I don't like the seatbelt law, but I wear my seatbelt, right? It wouldn't matter whether it was a law or not. I'm going to wear it to be safe. And it doesn't matter if they require a vaccine passport or not. I wrote that in my thing, like, just because there's bad marketing and they're being pushy and this and that doesn't mean it's a bad idea, even if it's off-putting. So I'll get the vaccine if I feel like, this is this thing to do.
You're not going to get the vaccine. I can tell right now you're not going to get the vaccine. You're in a grown ass man and you've got a friend begging you and you haven't.
We can talk about media again, but I think media has scared the pants off of a lot of people about COVID. And it's caused a lot of really bad policy and bad ideas and bad things to happen. It doesn't mean the vaccine is a bad thing. But when you say, like, I got a friend, I got the whole government telling me I better get this vaccine or else, and I just happen to be reading the Gulag Archipelago right now, and so it's tough to read that and then I don't know, be threatened with papers, right? It's fucked up. It is. And
I feel like you're basically, there's this pot,
but I don't want to not get the vaccine because of that.
Okay, somebody is just pick this time to start weed eating, but now
I can't hear it, so it's okay.
Good. You have this pot, and you got the information for the vaccine in the pot. You stir it up, and it's good, smells good, the aroma's nice. It all kind of like, oh man, I'm gonna have this. This is good.
That's all I'm trying to look at.
But then you have the government stuff, and you have your friend stuff, and it's that. I'll tell you, and it's distorting the dish.
I'm trying not to let it distort it.
Well, I'll say this. Oh shit, what was I gonna say? I completely blanked out.
I don't know, Paul. It's just that the longer this goes, the more I read about the cases in England going up and the cases in Israel going up, and it doesn't really seem like the vaccine's doing much. So that's another thing too. It's about effectiveness of the vaccine, Like if the vaccine decreases my chance of really bad stuff happening by 5%, it's like, why would I get it? It's about you really have to weigh a lot of stuff here.
See,
Like, what are the odds of one, grandma getting it, or any at-risk person getting it because I'm not vaccinated? What are the odds of them getting it and it being bad? Because if they are vaccinated, how much of a decrease in risk does that give them? And then is there like another variant going to come along and just fuck up the whole thing anyway?
We can't.
And what are the risks of me getting it even if I get the vaccine?
But
and what are the side effect risks of getting the vaccine?
The whole thing that I don't understand is that you've got all these ifs here that you're just, well, what if this? In this side of the scale, you have the vaccine and there's no downside. There's none. It takes up a few minutes of your two different trips to wherever to get it, and then you're gone. There's no, like, there's a lot of potential downside here and there's none on this side. And so, for instance, I heard the other day, and I don't know if
there's not none. That sounds like my friend. He's like, there's no downside.
There isn't.
I read about people who get it and they're fucked up from it.
There isn't. There's no downside. There's no downside. Any downside, there's none. Like,
come on.
There's no.
How do you say there's none? I mean, I'm telling you, there's testimonials of people who've gotten the vaccine and it's been horrible.
Hundreds of millions of people have gotten it, and 4 people die. Okay, that's not a thing.
So you're just saying that they're out there, but it's insignificant. Don't let it stop you.
Okay, everything. There's somebody who took a Flintstones vitamin and died. Like, there's just one minuscule. It doesn't exist. We can't.
That's not how I see it. I don't see it as the freak thing. It seems to be fairly common.
It's not.
I don't know how common.
It's not.
You think it's like 0.00001%. I think it's like 1%. I don't know. I don't know what I think it is.
Well, and that's the whole thing. You're thinking when you should be just looking at the data and reading. Less thinking, more reading. Let me put this out there.
All right. Let's do the first thing we have. Let's just do one thing we haven't done before.
Yes.
I'm just gonna Google something quick.
And do not put Alex Jones says. Okay, but while you're
I will not do that.
I'm gonna say this because so I heard this statistic, and look, man, we can get statistics from anywhere and everywhere, and they can be conflicting. But I heard that I'm gonna say this is a national thing, but 40% of people working in nursing homes still don't have the vaccine, right? Because there's have people who choose not to, even though they're working with the most vulnerable people. Now, let me put it this way. My aunt, my mom's sister, died last December from COVID. She was in a nursing home, right? And so she got this thing from somebody, most likely somebody who works in the nursing home, right? And that person got it from somebody. So you may not give it to your grandmother, but you might give it to somebody else who then gives it to somebody else's grandmother who dies.
Yeah, I don't think it's that clean.
That's the thing. You don't think it's that clean.
Well, all we got is our faculties and our ability to think.
I'm not really, only thing I'm
quarter of people report side effects.
Yeah, go for it. Show me what you got.
Well, I just Googled healthline.com, and among the people who are vaccinated, 25.4% reported having a systemic side effect.
Yeah, sickness for a couple of days.
Probably.
Yeah.
But again, that's all COVID does.
Yeah, that's all it's going to keep doing too for a long time.
I personally, I think that's what it's going to keep doing regardless of vaccines. So that's another reason why I'm not so eager to get it, because I don't think it's really going to matter, Paul. Well, I don't think everyone jumping on. It's sort of like voting third party here a little bit. Like,
of course, it makes perfect sense. Like the thing that does nothing.
Right. It's sort of like that, where be practical, Brandon. Like, don't. In this case, though, I'm telling you to be practical. It's like me getting the vaccine, me and 1,000 people getting the vaccine, me and 100,000 more people getting the vaccine. I don't know. to me, it doesn't feel like that's going to change anything. It doesn't seem to be changing things
I think
elsewhere.
it's as someone who
I don't
is
think me getting the
smart.
vaccine really matters in the grand scheme.
No, and I can tell because anybody who thought it did would have already gotten the vaccine. I'll tell you, I make a
Certainly.
habit of not trying to convince adults to do things. I try to have rational conversations and present information. And then if my information leads them to do something different, then fine. But
Mhm.
I mean, this whole conversation, I haven't tried to convince you to get it because that's just not, I'm not in the business of trying to get adults to do things they don't want to do. So
Mhm.
fuck it, I don't care. I will say this though, that I find great joy that people who have followed the science and gotten the vaccine are not dying of COVID. And while
Yeah.
I don't get joy from the 99.9% of people who haven't been vaccinated, I don't get joy from them dying, but I also have no sympathy and I have no empathy and I have no, it gives me, I mean, it's like you want to roll the dice, go for it. That's you, you know. But 99% of the people who die don't have the vaccine, so whatever.
Right.
I think that that's enough for me to think I should probably get the vaccine, but that's just me. So yeah, but I think you are definitely you are wrong in the fact that if we were to get up to like 60-70% of people vaccinated, then COVID would be waning, and eventually, it just would, as far as this country goes, it would be a very minimal thing, because eventually it's just like when
It doesn't seem the vaccine is doing as much as you hoped it would do. And that isn't because people aren't getting vaccinated. It's because the vaccine isn't that potent. It's not as good as the other vaccines, evidently, from what I can tell.
no, it's doing exactly. I mean, they always said you could still get it. You could still get it. It's just you wouldn't die. Symptoms would be milder, wouldn't last as
Mhm.
long. So if we can do anything to help out the cause of getting rid of this, then why not do it? But or 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 we can make it about ourselves, and we can just keep this COVID train running. So yeah, so the winter is going to be a cold, deadly one, and as long as the people who keep dying are the ones who aren't vaccinated, then I feel like that kind of makes perfect sense to me.
Mm. I should probably
What are you looking
vaccinate.
at?
Yeah, whatever. I was just trying to see, like, again, it's about the spread and whether getting vaccines help prevent the spread.
Hey, the fact, I mean, look, there's no evidence showing that this country is better off when we don't get the vaccine.
Mm.
There's no evidence saying that we're better off. So that's why I did it, and that's why I wish more people would do it. But whatever, 600,000 plus. Yeah, I mean, it's a start, I guess. To I don't know, whatever. I think I'm done. I'm out. What did I say? Frustration, exacerbation, comedy. Yeah, that's what
You've
happened.
laid out your case well, Paul. I appreciate you doing that. Um,
And look, I hope you do get it, but I think that you know what? And let me say this is something that I'll put. Okay, this is my last thing on this, and I'm gonna make this about you since since we're discussing, and we're on different sides. I'll make this about you. There are a lot of you do a lot of good things in the world, like the Periphery Foundation. You look to do a lot of things. You go into these communities and you try to help people, and you go in and you make videos, and you bring it from a place in your heart that is genuine and sincere, and you do a lot of good, right? And I've seen it. I've edited stuff. I know that you enjoy just meeting good or interesting people and sharing their stories that could be impactful for other people. So I see that. But there's also a side of you that and I don't mean, okay, and I don't mean to say this as a you do this outwardly, right? But internally, I think there's a part of you that defines yourself by the things you don't do, right? And or you don't, you are defined by the things you don't do. You don't drink, which there's a reason you don't drink, right? You don't drink. You don't, and then recently you stopped doing caffeine. You don't do caffeine. Then, you also don't watch pornography. I know that's maybe not in line with all the others, but there are these things that you don't do. And now you don't take the vaccine. That's something you don't do. And you have these different things that, and look, this is just an observation. And I'm not saying that we interpret it a specific way. It's just you kind of, the things you don't do are as big a definer of you as the things you do. Right. And I don't, and that's just, I think, a character. That's just not character. That's just part of, I don't even know. I'm just, this is another thing that you don't do. And I don't know if those things are connected in some way. But I've just noticed that through our conversation, And now, don't get me wrong, there's things I don't do, but I don't really feel like there's a pillar in my life of the thing and that I don't do. It's more about what I do.
Yeah. I hear you. In this case, the movement to vaccinate, I've taken a position to stand back and watch it and wait and see kind of thing. And and maybe it's long enough, maybe it's been long enough, and I should just go ahead and get it and whatever, because it's the best thing to do for me and my loved ones and the world.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not against making that decision. And Paul, look, I bet I get the vaccine. Just like I bet I do. I bet in time I'll get it, because I just think, I'm guessing in time it'll prove overwhelmingly that it's the right thing to do. That's my guess.
You're waiting until they start paying people, aren't you? You're trying to get that Hyundai stick, that $100, aren't you?
That's fucked up. They're paying Walmart. That's another thing that's fucked up. They're paying Walmart employees to get it.
That's how desperate people are. Because the thing is, if we go into because the government and
they're not asking for verification. You're basically paying people to lie.
Wait, what? Well, no, I think that right now in the country and corporations are desperate to slow this thing down, because business is gonna really suffer if things start going crazy again.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's inherent, like there's a desperation. I think here's what I would say. Like I said, I don't try to get adults to do things. And this is just something I just thought of. So it's kind of stupid, but I'll throw it out there. You should pick a date where you say, by this date, I'm going to make a decision. I'm either going to do it or I'm not, because unless there's a severe change in the data, as long as just pick a date and either do it or don't.
It's a good idea, Paul.
And then that's that. You either are, this is my decision, this is who I am, this is where I'm at, or this, one way or the other. That's that's the only thing I would say as far as just, that might be interesting to just pick a date.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I'll think about that, and maybe I'll have a date in mind next time we talk.
2025.
and then you can talk to me about your adventures with edibles.
Yeah. That'll be, that's my 10. Okay, well, never mind. I won't even get into that. But
and whether or not I get vaccinated, Paul, be prepared to talk about COVID more, because there's probably going to be more masks and who knows what, and it'll just come up in conversation. You'll talk about going on some date and with masks on. You'll talk about, who knows how it'll come up, but it'll come up again, I'm guessing. And so, yeah, I guess just, I think you know that. I think you know
I will, if you
not going away.
If you get the vaccine, I will talk about it with you.
Okay.
But I'm not talking about COVID anymore. I'm just done. And it's just because I don't know what else there is to say. You know what I mean? I don't know what else. We've talked for an hour plus. unless there's something that changes the game that's new and different, I don't know what more there is to say. It's
Right.
like, because
Yeah,
I
I
don't
get
know.
it. To you, the evidence is just so freakingly overwhelming. It's ridiculous to even hesitate.
99.999% of people dying have not been vaccinated.
That's
If you,
that's that's not the open and shut case you think it is, though, because the people who die aren't you and me.
well, no, the people who die aren't me. They're not me. They are you, though.
They're not me.
You're unvaccinated. People who are unvaccinated
Oh,
die.
come on.
We are,
See,
we,
that's
age
scary,
isn't, no,
Paul.
I'm not
I don't
saying,
like to hear
obviously,
that.
no, I'm just saying that I'm not like people like me. No, death is a potential outcome based on the 99.99% for you. It's a potential outcome. It's not, it's very unlikely, but it's a potential
Well,
outcome. But for me,
my
from
odds of
COVID,
dying from COVID are the same as yours, whether I'm vaccinated or not. I don't think it really changes for me. I don't think. The people who die that aren't vaccinated, they're the ones that have heart issues and are overweight and
so
are 89 years old.
yeah, I will agree that you still have a very small chance of dying, but it's more than me. There you go. It's more than me. But you have a better chance of spreading it on than I do. Better chance of being really sick than I do.
That to me
That's
is
true.
that to me is the key.
Yeah. How would you feel if you?
Really,
How would you feel if your grandma got COVID and even though she was vaccinated, she's older. How would you feel if she got it? You weren't sure how she got it, but you'd seen her within the recent. How would you feel?
I
And
feel
how can
awful.
this God? I swear it feels like the right there. Can you hear that at all?
Barely. Don't worry about it.
Yes.
It's a very low buzz, like a electric razor or something. It's nothing.
Yeah, I know. I feel like they're in my backyard, but I know they're not. But anyway, I asked you a serious question.
I would feel terrible. And look, I avoided. I remember last summer avoiding people who had COVID or who were symptomatic. They had a cold or something like that.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. In fact, it was when I went down to Oklahoma to see you, and I was going to see my
Oh
buddy in
yeah.
Tulsa and head home. But you know what? They didn't even have any symptoms. They just were exposed to someone because like his child's swim coach had COVID. So he may have had it. So the parents may have had
Yeah.
it. So I said, sorry, Will, I can't come to Tulsa and see you because I'm going up to a funeral right now. I just can't risk it. And I felt terrible. I had to miss my friend Will, but I was very
Yeah.
cautious because I thought, man, I just could not stand it if I went up there and spread it. So I've got that fear just the same. I'm just not the effectiveness of the vaccine and the amount it reduces my ability to spread it. And look, if I have COVID or I have symptoms, I'm not going to see my grandma either. So really what it comes down to is how much does it decrease the spread of COVID if I'm asymptomatic? That's really what it comes down to for me.
Well, then I
And
guess.
if it's significantly, then there's reason right there to get it.
Well, and you are a smart and resourceful person, so I'm sure that question you can find an answer to on the internet. I'm sure you can find an answer.
I'm sure I can find many answers on the
I
internet.
feel like you can find a well-sourced, scientifically
Yeah.
based answer. I'm confident you can. So,
well, I don't want to keep talking about this and spinning wheels either. I'm with you 100%. But I will say, if I change my mind, if I get it, if I have any kind of whatever, any noteworthy update, I think we should. I wouldn't mind talking about it again. But
yeah, if there is if you get the vaccine, then I think there's something to talk about.
All right.
Fully. So.
And that's fine. I hope, just like you hope good things for me, I hope good things for you too. And I guess the virus I see out there in the country that I hope you don't get, the virus is, I saw this lady, she's a physician, she is a whatever, a leading voice in this whole thing. And she talked about, we can't trust the unvaccinated. And she talked about it as if they were like the gays or the blacks. She called them the unvaccinated. It wasn't even like we
I don't know
can't
if that's
trust.
a good correlation, but yes.
I think it's 100%.
Because
Well,
neither is a choice. Like me being black isn't necessarily, it's not a choice. And somebody being gay, I don't think is a choice. So I don't think that the choice of being vaccinated or not, I think it's not the same. But anyway.
That's not the same. But what the same is that if you look at a group of people and then you dehumanize them with that
Hey,
word, it's the unvaccinated. It's about othering. And so I hope you don't do that the way she did that. And she does that on national TV as a trusted person. It's just, it's nauseating. It's very dehumanizing. And if for a physician to dehumanize people by group, look, not all unvaccinated people are doing it by choice. Some can't get it.
That's not who she's talking about. Look,
it is because she said the unvaccinated, and that by rule includes everyone unvaccinated. That's what she said is really bad.
If somebody, well, I don't know who this is, but I know she meant that people who are healthy enough to get the vaccine and don't have some sort of medical reason not to get it. It's the same reason I look at a whole bunch of people who are super left and don't want their kids vaccinated. I put them in a group, and I look at them as less. I look at them as uneducated, fear-mongering, and putting their kids in danger. I put a whole lot of people in groups and look down at them. Let me say, not look down. I put a whole lot of people in groups and other them because of the decisions they make. Just like I'd put a racist in a group, because I look at them and they're making a decision to be a certain thing that I think is a bad. It's bad. They're making a bad decision. They're making a conscious decision to be a bad person, to do something that is not for the betterment of themselves or for the people around them. So I'm okay with putting people in other groups. Now, putting blacks or gays in different groups, no, because I think that's a broad general, that's just who a person is. But when somebody makes a conscious choice that conflicts with my morals or my logical brain, then I will put them into a group. So I got you in a group. That's just me. Right. I got you in a group.
All right. Well, you know what?
Hey, I still love you, and you're still my guy. But I got you in the group.
I gotta say, that's actually quite revelatory. It's quite a revelation. Like, you can say that. I'm not gonna be butthurt. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna talk to you. Nothing like that. Like, that's quite the admission. I don't think most people would say that, but I think it's very open of you to say that.
Like we talk about seatbelts. If a parent refuses to buckle their kid up into a seatbelt, I'm gonna look at them a different way than I would somebody who does, because I think they're putting someone else's life in danger. And I completely disagree with what they're doing. So, and I'm sure there's things I'm sure I do that you look at me a certain way,
There's a lot of good people not getting vaccinated, Paul. So
yeah, but and I'm not saying I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying that I put you in the basket of people who are hurting our odds of getting out of this thing. You're hurting our odds.
I understand. I appreciate that. I get it.
So
I get it.
Does it mean that you're not still a dear friend and I don't care about you and I don't hope you, and doesn't mean I don't hope. I'm having trouble talking today. I hope everything is good. I hope you stay healthy and that all this, but I still can think, just like you're a third party voter. I put you in that other group. so the group is just letting the two sides battle it out while you just go hang out in Maui or something, It's like, dude, get in the fight, man. You can't just kick it on the beach and vote for Jill Stein and think that you're making a difference, Anyway. Yeah.
I would never vote for Jill Stein.
Gary Johnson or whoever. Yeah.
That's more like it.
Yeah.
Vote my conscience. It really, look, this is one could say a self-centered position. I get it. Because obviously the reason I'm not getting the shot is because I'm worried about my own body, right? And the reason why I vote third party is because I just don't want to stomach voting for someone who's going to be a bad person and having endorsed that badness, whatever. I mean, we don't have to get into that argument, but I think we laid it out.
You have a I'm moral, but I'm also pragmatic. And in the end, the pragmatism of me weighs out. What in the end of it, if it's a binary choice,
Yeah.
what choice is, I don't have to like it,
Yeah.
but what choice is best? I'm just pragmatic that way. I would never vote third party because I know that because it's kind of like it's an easy out for me to pick, to not have to make a tough decision, right? Voting for Hillary or Trump was a tough decision for a lot of people because they didn't like either. But shit, just make the decision. Like, it
depends how you approach it. It was actually hard for me to vote third party because I want to vote for one of those two. I want to be on the winning team. I want to be part of I want to be in the in group. I want to be in there and have a horse in the race. Of course, I want to be in there, right? So to choose not to is actually also, one could look at it as a independent and like, no, I'm gonna go off here by myself. Like, you can say that as like going to Maui, or you can be like, he's going off in his cabin, like loneliness, isolation kind of thing. But so it depends how you approach it.
But you chose to. And also, that's another thing that you were defined by what you didn't do. You didn't vote for the main, like one of the two people. Another tent pole on what you didn't do.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, it's an independent thing. And yeah, I'm not, yeah, I identify as being outside.
Be pragmatic. Well, I'm not saying that to you, but
I do want to be pragmatic with the vaccine. I really do. And we have to do the best of what we have in this world. And if the best is to get the vaccine, I'll get the vaccine, Paul.
When you do, we'll talk about it.
All right.
Okay. Well, hey, okay. Like I said, I didn't say this on the pod, but I said it on the phone when we talked. But, I was pretty heated about it. And, I say stuff, but at the end of it, I'm just excited. I'm happy that we can just talk about these things.
Me too.
And I feel like I'm a lot more insulting than you. And you just kind of let me vent. So I appreciate that. So
if the right people hear this, they're going to appreciate, they're going to be, they're going to get everything you say, and they're going to be rooting for you a lot. And like, think about it. How often do you have people on different sides of this debate get to, it's either the people who are talking about this in the media are already in agreement with each other, and they're just kind of, can you believe them over there? And they're kind of doing that together. So for us to come here and discuss it, I think is valuable. I hope this gets out to a lot of people. Thanks for being half of it, buddy.
Yes, well, thank you too. So, okay, I think that's a good place to end. So, signing off. We'll see you next time.
All right, pal. We'll see you.
See you.